Welcome to Acorns to Oaks. I'm Sarah Moreau.
And I'm Kristine Dixon.
And today we are in the beautiful San Bernardino Mountains. And game is on.
Yes, that's what we're talking about today.
That's right.
A landmark lawsuit came out just a couple months ago about video gaming addiction, or
Right.
as the DSM calls it, internet gaming disorder. It's listed in Section 3 of the DSM-5, condition for further study, not yet a fully recognized disorder. But we're all getting sort of addicted to
We are.
video games and tech. And, I think that's one thing that ABA can really look at, because the schedules of reinforcement, which come out of behaviorism, really show us what these schedules of reinforcement and the power of combining them together can do. B.F. Skinner, he was really foundational in studying these schedules of reinforcement.
Yeah.
But yes, what does the medical field feel about video gaming addiction?
Absolutely is a lot of interest in video game addiction. We have quite a bit of advice coming out, especially for young children. No screen time under the age of 2, less than an hour recommended throughout childhood. And it's getting harder and harder, I think, to avoid screen time and video games. And it's so much fun. And we see often with the kids that we work with, the behaviors that occur, right, when we have removed access to these highly reinforcing activities.
Or when it powers down. I've
Yeah.
definitely seen many an outburst when video games power down midway.
Absolutely.
The adult equivalent would be like watching the Super Bowl midway and the power goes out.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh my God. And I always like to put it in adult perspective, even when we're talking about children, because I think it's really important for clinicians to recognize the perspective.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, you got upset when I took the toy away. It's like, well, if I took your phone out of your hands and threw it out the window, would that make you upset?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to look at that. But video games are powerful. And once a variable like this is so embedded in an ecosystem,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any getting rid of it.
I don't think so either. I think that we do have to make really intentional decisions about how we use it in our life. And this goes for me as well. I mean, I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is check on my Aura ring, see how I slept, which I know is ridiculous. Like, can't I just feel that in my body? Why do I need this device to tell me that I slept well or not? But I really like that input, that data, looking at that screen. And then I go to the New York Times to Wordle and I play that game. Often before I even get out of bed, right? So I think that it's very pervasive in our lives, and maybe even plugging the phone in away from my bed would probably be a wise environmental arrangement for me to cut back on how often I'm looking at my phone.
It's about balance, absolutely.
Yeah.
These are leisure skills. But the addiction part of it, which is what we're looking at, it really comes from these compound schedules of reinforcement that B.F. Skinner studied, right? There's a combination of a variable interval schedule, meaning that you will be reinforced at a varying amount of time, and a variable ratio schedule, which means you will be reinforced for a correct amount of responses. And then there is the combination of those two schedules with an indiscriminable contingency. Well, what does that mean? That means surprise reinforcement peppered throughout the game. And it's those three schedules in combination with token system. You're collecting things in these games. You're given different tokens. You're earning different potions, you're getting different medals. It's a combination of all that really makes these video games very reinforcing and highly addicting.
Absolutely.
And, we used to call the variable ratio the jackpot ratio.
Yes. And I was reminded of gambling is one of the earliest forms that we've seen of this, as a society. And there's interesting research on people with Parkinson's disease who take a drug called carbidopa, levodopa, which increases the amount of dopamine that they have in their brain, because people with Parkinson's disease are suffering from movement disorders because they don't make enough dopamine in their brains. So when these people are taking this drug, that hit from that very exciting surprise reinforcer is so powerful that they are warned that compulsive gambling is a side effect of that medication. So it's really interesting how these games can play into our physiology, in addition to what, of course, Skinner found with these schedules of reinforcement and how that changes the way that we engage in activities and how that changes our behavior throughout any given day and in any activity.
So when we say the variable ratio is like this gambling reinforcer, it's very addictive, and what it is like the slot machines,
Yeah.
right? So every time you pull the lever, you don't know if you're going to hit, and you will pull the lever so many times, and then you will hit, and it's a surprise. But that ratio produces the highest, steadiest rate of responding in our science.
Yes.
The variable interval is also producing a high, steady state of responding. And what that means is that us as a species, when we get into the contingencies of all this, it is highly thrilling and fun. I mean, I play Monopoly Go. And I even know the schedules of reinforcement, but it's still that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting about Parkinson's and lack of dopamine and then getting dopamine. For little kids, a lot of, and I have to take it back to B.F. Skinner, he thought in the future there'd be a lot of learning games, and there are.
Yeah.
But they still have these highly addictive schedules of reinforcement. They also have a variable of consumption, of buying. A lot of these games really have you collecting money and then for working or for achieving in the game, and then you're buying new weapons, you're buying, well, real estate and Monopoly, but that can also get you a dopamine hit. But once the dopamine hit physiologically is done, you're left with the lull.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is curious, and I think there's a lot of interest in how these games and access to this type of stimuli is affecting the developing brain in children.
Yeah. And it's concerning, really.
It is concerning.
Yeah, because when the iPad powers down, sometimes we can see an outburst or a behavior.
Yeah.
In adults and children. When your phone powers down and you're in mid-call, you can sometimes see an outburst or a behavior.
Absolutely. And even beyond behavior, just the avoidance of social interaction, the avoidance of physical activity, things that were maybe previously a more reinforcing activity are just shadowed by these video games and screen activities. So we are also kind of losing a little bit of the intrinsic value of just interacting with a friend or going outside. And what a beautiful outside it is here in the San Bernardino Mountains.
The National Forest.
Yes.
So lucky to be here. Yeah. The video games, this is reality, but the video games a lot of times put you in a virtual space, in an imaginative space, and kids love that. I love that.
It's really fun. Yeah.
I think I'm Gen X, so I've had the pleasure of being alive and seeing the, video games evolve, from virtual, the Oculus going all the way back to the Pong, and I was born before there was Pong, believe it or not. But I think, being born prior to technology being everywhere instead of just an Apple computer down in my basement, it's hard to know if the developing brain is able to really differentiate the virtual versus reality. I think that would have been very difficult for the
Yeah.
6-year-old Kristine version of me, because be like, like, I'm a princess in this video game, and then rectifying, like, I have to go to school and I have to do this chores and, you know, life,
Yeah, the
the two,
contrast.
the
Yeah.
contrast, the behavioral contrast between the two settings,
Yeah.
would be, I think, somewhat difficult for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and the virtual reality is really remarkable. There was
So
a
remarkable.
game I played, it was like a bow and arrow game or something. It was really, um, a very simple game, but it's such an immersive world that these, game builders make, that it is just very, motivating, I think, for young people and really for anyone. But it's about finding that balance. I think that's really important. There is also the social component. A lot of these kids do play online with other children, and this might be a way that they are interacting with one another now that wasn't available when you and I were growing up in the 70s and 80s, and 90s, but mostly 80s. Uh,
The virtual
not
world.
aging ourselves.
The virtual worlds are artistry. They
Yeah.
are so beautiful. I mean, the immersion into some of these worlds is really remarkable. I'm not saying it doesn't have value. I think it has great value, and I do think it enhances imagination in developing brains. The artistry behind some of these video games is so absolutely captivating and fun. And absolutely fun, the things you get to do in them. Very freeing, very empowering for kids to take actions and experience that. So there's definitely pros and cons for sure on both sides of the argument. I think not limiting the time played can lead to serious problems.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what the DSM is looking for in the diagnosis of I think it's video game addiction, because we've heard stories now of people entering contingencies where they'll wear diapers all day to play video games.
Yeah.
And there's been some neglect of children by parents playing video games, and that really makes you stop and think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think anytime that you're wearing a diaper by choice should make you reflect upon your choices and how you ended up here. But beyond that, just the health implications of being sedentary, being in front of a screen, maybe not interacting with others as much as you would without the video game. I think these are indicators that maybe we're making an unhealthy choice. And how to set up that time limit for a young person in your home or for yourself, I think is a really important thing to consider.
Yeah, there's also there's so much research. Of course, I think close to 15 years now, I think it was Harvard did the study about excessive video game usage, actually changing some components in the brain. I think it was the dendrites had less, which is part of the brain cell, had less fingers, so to say, branches, and we call it social media, but you're really solo in the physical act.
Yes.
And as behaviorists, we're about observable and measurable behavior. So, you're solo when you're engaging in that.
And social media also, I'm so grateful it wasn't around when I was a teenage girl. I think the harm that it's done to teenagers looking for their identity and comparing themselves to these best pictures posted by others, it's not good for self-esteem, and it's not good just for general mental health. And I think that's been shown. And
absolutely. And I remember, when I was young, they were even showing studies about fashion magazines, right? And comparing yourselves to models like Kate Moss, and those
eating
are
disorders and
evil, evil the models of the supermodels,
the
of
supermodels
the 90s.
of the 90s. Yes.
Yeah. And they were saying that it wasn't really good to compare yourself because these were photoshopped.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and now everyone can be photoshopped, which goes to say, like, is it reality when we're engaging in social media, or is it just painted, filtered,
Mhm.
you know,
And
it
they really should have age limits, I think is what we have learned.
and responsibility,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the makers.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're profiting off of these platforms, which are incredibly successful, but at what cost? If we're having young people that are less healthy, young people that are less engaged, young people that are less social in a general sense out in the world, I think that that's a sign that we need to really reconsider how access is granted for these platforms. I believe some countries have put on age limits, like you have to be 16 before you can even have one of these profiles. I don't know where we are on that in the United States. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I think this lawsuit, I think it went about. It was a minor in social media, and it came down in the favor of the family.
Mhm.
Um, I I do think that's going to set a precedent for laws that are going to come into play. And also, when you look at community, it's like, yes, there is community. You're connecting. You can play a game with your cousin from Idaho.
Mhm.
Like, so there's a lot of pros.
Mhm.
But we've also seen in like roadblocks, we've
Mhm.
seen predators enter
Yeah.
these communities with children
Mhm.
and, uh, you know, do despicable things.
Mhm.
Um, Jenna Bush, one of the clinicians that works with us at Nurture Nature, she did an excellent presentation, and it really got us thinking about stranger danger, and
Yeah.
how we teach that as behavior analysts to children and how parents teach it. Um, but it's very different if a stranger approaches you in a store or a stranger comes to your door and knocks, right? There's a
Mhm.
protocol. It's like, go get mom. If you don't know who it is, don't open the door, right?
Yeah.
These were
Yeah.
things we were taught. If a stranger approaches you, and you don't know them, just go and find mom or find a parent or tell someone. With video games and strangers in this community, these online gaming communities,
Yeah.
um, there does not seem to be a filter. And there is, I believe, like a huge settlement going out for roadblocks. And
Yeah.
there should be,
Yeah.
because there does need to be safeguards for children
Yeah. And
in this
when
regard.
technology grows as quickly as it has, um, we're often behind in terms of the regulation and what we need to do to protect ourselves. I know there's been a lot of discussion about AI and people forming relationships with a bot. And then, there was a boy that committed suicide. I think there's been a lot of really terrible outcomes. Um, and because things are growing so quickly, I think that uh, we have a responsibility when we're working with children to know what they're using and to make sure that we are monitoring and keeping them safe.
Yeah, so I think as clinicians working with ages 2 to 65, I think we recommend limiting screen time,
For sure.
having parental controls,
Hmm.
um, having parental supervision and checking in on what's going on and what are you playing,
Yeah,
having control over the device.
absolutely.
If it's becoming excessive, locking down the Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
not playing games during the sleep routine or when you're trying to shut
absolutely.
down the day with your schedule.
Yeah.
They say that the blue light has an effect,
It
right?
does, yeah. So if you're looking at your phone at night, or if a child is looking at a video game at night, that's sending a message to the brain that says, "Hey, it's still daytime. Let's not start that circadian rhythm to power down, get some rest." So I think it's really important that we put those things away at least an hour before bed, and probably more when you're dealing with a young child. I think it's great to have an evening routine that maybe doesn't use the tech. Let's read a book before bed. Let's have some interaction together that is not looking at a screen. Sleep will be better for everyone in the house.
And it's more meaningful. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look back at your life in terms of memories, do you really remember levels in a video game, or do you remember being with people and doing things and going on hikes and that lived experience and being in the forest and seeing real beauty versus like virtual engagement?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I think when you look back, I don't remember playing, like, I don't remember saying, oh, I beat Donkey Kong finally, and I was here at this moment. But I remember like my high school graduation and, playing with my brother when I was younger. And like those memories seem way more salient than anything I've done virtually.
Absolutely.
What about for you?
Oh,
Like,
100%. I would much rather spend some time outside than be on my phone. And, sometimes the energy it takes to put down your phone and go outside, it seems like a lot. But once you do it, you feel so much better. Sleep better, interact with others better, handle stress better, just live a healthier existence for that day. Um, yeah.
and those are the cons. But then on the other side, to play devil's advocate, we are in the information age. It is outstanding.
Yeah.
Anything you want to know, you can look up. You might not get the right answer, especially if you're using some of the AI bots. It's like, you're so funny, AI.
You just made that up.
That's not true. And then they come back and be like, you're right. I was incorrect. It's like, oh my God. How much of the world is getting this incorrect information as fact?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
So if you look at like your formative years and you're getting incorrect information, the world is a little skewed.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my takeaway from our discussion today is just be in the real world for a little bit, right?
Yeah, try to make real friends
Yeah.
that come over to your house and, give you hugs.
Yeah, and sit next to your beautiful window and chat with you over coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So limiting screen time, limiting the time you do it, so not at bedtime.
Yes.
1 hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Any other recommendations you think we should have? Making sure it's age-appropriate content.
Yeah, and I think having safety in place, especially for your children,
Yeah.
and young teens who are being approached online. I think if your child is on the internet, it's very likely that they have been approached by someone that you probably would prefer they not be. So it's just really helpful, I think, to know what is being used and put some safety guards in place. Turn off that Wi-Fi if you need to.
So play with your children.
Yeah.
If you are going to play, make it a family thing. Play with them, monitor, see who's reaching out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really have a good idea on what information is coming in as crucial as we move forward and we evolve. There are pros and cons on both sides.
Absolutely.
And the pros are strong. There's a lot of great information.
And a lot of fun things.
A lot of
on
fun
the
video
internet.
games.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But limiting time, balance, and safety.
Balance and safety all the way.
Well, thanks so much for talking about video game addiction
Yeah,
today.
of course. So fun to talk to you anytime.
And we'll see how it emerges in the laws that we create and how the field of psychology, if they're going to make it a formal diagnosis or not. It's a very interesting time.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Thank you so much for being with us here today. Like, comment, and subscribe, and send us your thoughts. We don't have all the right answers all the time, but I'm very interested in opinions of others and how everyone is feeling about this, especially parents raising young children. And I think it's crucial time. So, yeah.
Reach out. That's what this has all been about, right? We really want to make connections with people out there as well as right here.